Hey there, Danny here from 1 Minute Podcast Tips, and welcome to a very special episode, episode 150. If you've been a regular listener, thank you for joining me so far up until this milestone. Today, I'm going to take a backseat. Instead, I've invited some of my favourite podcasters on to share their own 1 Minute Podcast Tips with you. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, Danny and the 1 Minute Podcast Tips community. Happy 150th episode. I am here to share a tip with you that has helped me in my podcast growth journey over the years and will hopefully help you. I think we know at this point that there is no one-size-fits-all advice when it comes to podcast growth, but I still find that people are looking for it, and I understand that. It is really tempting to want to find that one thing that's going to just boost your show into the sky. And look, it might be possible that you strike lightning one day, but while we're waiting for that to happen, or while we're actively taking steps for that to happen, we do need to be trying a lot of things, iterating constantly, and also tracking what might be working even the tiniest bit. So my tip, based on all of that preamble, is to try out experiments in 3-month chunks. Test a new variable when it comes to podcast growth. Think about one thing that you might be able to change in your show or in your podcast marketing efforts in each of those 3-month periods. Maybe it's testing a new podcast trailer, and while you're testing that new podcast trailer, sending it out to a bunch of complimentary shows and asking them to play that trailer on their feed. Maybe another iteration that you can make is tweaking your episode titles to be a little bit more relevant to search terminology that's going around with regards to your topic. Maybe it's pitching your show, any news that you have, to niche newsletters in your podcast topic and seeing what sticks. Then at the end of that 3-month period, make sure to log what worked and to maybe scrap what didn't work or tweak it and see if that tiny tweak makes a difference. That's my tip. Thank you for having me. 1 Minute Podcast Tips. Thank you, Danny. And again, congratulations.
Hey there, I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and I want to give you my big congratulations on 150 episode. That is a big milestone and well worth celebrating. Well, here's one tip drawn from my experience helping creators in media for almost 35 years now. Even if you're in it for the art or just for fun, don't just think of what you're doing as a hobby. Take the time to step back and look at things through a business and a legal lens, because that's likely how the outside world will see you. So make sure that you have good clarity in all of your relationships with your co-hosts, co-producers, guests, service providers, and sponsors. And yes, as a lawyer, I have to recommend that you get it all in writing. This is where a little planning and prevention can really go a long way to making sure your show is around for the long haul, helping your audience and sparing you unnecessary headaches and drama. So again, congratulations on 150 episodes. You're out there serving your audience, and I love it. Keep up the great work.
Something I learned the hard way in podcasting is that tech issues never actually go away. It doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this or how fancy your gear is, you're still going to have bad internet. You're still going to lose files. Your microphone is going to break right in the middle of a sentence. I've gone an entire hour before realizing I never even hit record, y'all. It just keeps happening. So the fix is to expect things to go wrong. Always have a backup, use a second microphone, record locally while you're online, and make your guest record their side too. Run a tech check every single time. Test the chords, y'all. Test the chords and the connections from one thing to the other. You have to be ready for the chaos. How you respond to those mistakes is what keeps you in the game. It's better to be prepared for the problem rather than to hope it doesn't happen. That is just the reality of the podcaster life.
Hey, it's Freddy Cruz, founder of Speak Podcasting and host of Your Mic. And I'm in the car right now, and I had this idea when Dan invited me to give my tip. So here it is. Please use AI, but do not, for the love of all things sacred in the podcast universe, 100% rely on it to edit your podcasts. Go back and listen through and make sure that your breaths are not chopped off and make sure that your conversation sounds like an actual conversation between two human beings because AI is meant to augment, not replace us. Period, as the kids would say. Happy potting.
One of the biggest things I have learned as a podcaster is you need to think about background noise and notifications going off while you record. So, 30 minutes before I record, I put away the kids, think about animals in the background, air conditioners that might go off mid sentence. The more silence, the better, because your audience will notice the background noise. This has happened to me so many times. So it's probably better to let your guests know as well that they need to turn off their calendar notifications, their social media windows that might be open, silence their phone, all of the above. That's my 1 minute tip. Congrats on episode 150.
Thanks for listening or watching this very special episode of 1 Minute Podcast Tips. And thank you to my special guests for sharing their tips with you today. I've really enjoyed making this podcast and hearing how the tips have helped you in your own podcasting journey. And I hope you'll join me for the next 150 episodes. Until the next time, happy podcasting.